Hello and welcome to the Categorically Romance podcast. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Bree.
And before we get started, I want to give a shout out to our patrons that support the podcast, and we appreciate it so much. We actually were able to renew one of our subscriptions with all of your help, and we really appreciate that. So thanks for supporting the podcast, and we hope to support you patrons as well. And now on to our show. We are doing a crossover episode today. We are joined by Abigail and Katey from the 50% podcast. Abigail, Katey, welcome to the Categorically Romance podcast.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so tell us all about the 50% podcast.
Yeah, like what made y'all start it? We want all the juice because we're such a fan of podcasts, and we're like, what inspires other podcasters to start theirs? And like, tell our listeners what they can expect from your podcast. Like, start from the beginning to now. Tell us everything.
Ooh, Katey, I feel like you should start off because this is kind of your origin story in general.
Well, it's like our origin story, like our friendship origin story too. So it's like, it's all very wholesome and cute. But yeah, Abigail, I was her boss back, like 3 years ago? 4 years ago? Sure.
What is time?
Time exists.
5 minutes ago.
Exactly. So I was Abigail's boss at the local newspaper in Austin. We're both journalists.
Y'all are in Austin. I'm in San Antonio. Okay,
Stop
we're gonna meet at the book,
right.
people.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely. I love it.
Aaron, come down and we'll just do a big podcast thing, okay?
All right, looking up plane tickets now.
Love it. But yeah, so we were working together, and as I am prone to do, I force all of my interests and my personality onto all of my friends. So I was like, Abigail, have you heard of A, Taylor Swift, and B, romance novels?
Oh, you heard of Taylor Swift?
Do you know who this Taylor Swift person is?
Who is this Taylor Swift you talk about?
this real underground artist. Never heard of her. Never seen her in my life.
Indie pop, you know?
Yeah. But Katey started bringing me romance books. I had recently graduated from college when we were working together. And so I was learning how to basically read for fun again after I hadn't done it for 4 years. So she brought me like some Christina Lauren books, and I just like very quickly was like running through them. And so then we stopped officially working together.
I quit my job and left Abigail alone.
Yeah. Soon after I got like a new job, and then I moved to Houston during the pandemic, and we were still like trading books and talking about them all the time. And I eventually like moved back to Austin, and we had this kind of like running joke that we were going to start a podcast of just indulging in our own personal book club that we had going on. And Katey actually did start working in podcasting while we were kind of joking about this. And so when I had moved back to Austin, we had told somebody else about it, also kind of as a joke. One of
My
Katey's
boss.
Yeah. And he was like, that's a great idea. You should do that. And then we were like, haha, sure. And then a month later, we were like, maybe we should.
Yeah, because then I actually knew how to do it. I was like, okay, here's what we can buy. I know how to edit. Like, now I actually know how to do this thing. So we really had no excuse not to do it.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of it starts with, well, maybe we should actually do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It really came to a head when we were at a restaurant sitting at the bar, and like maybe mostly through a bottle of wine, and we were like, we're going to do it, right? We're going to do it. So
yeah, there was a shared iPhone note situation that started it all.
What do you think? Like when you think back on it now, it's like, I guess like if people were to ask us for advice, we'd be like, just do it. But there is that hesitation. Like, what do you think that is? Do you think it's like, oh, I have to have fancy equipment, or is it, what are we going to talk about? Like, what do you think the hesitation was?
I don't know. I think we both have hefty egos, I would say.
Okay.
So reasonably sized egos. So it wasn't necessarily like, oh, like we don't know what we're doing. I think it was kind of like, like just the idea of doing it, like formalizing it. And also, I don't know if this is true for you, Abigail, but for me, starting like a kind of not that this is a business in any form
A
or fashion.
small business.
Right. But like
Yeah.
starting something like that with a friend, it's like, what does that do for the friendship? You know, which it's of course been fine because we're like best friends. But a little piece of that was like, are we ready to take that next step in our relationship?
Yeah, I had maybe like a little bit of that because when I had worked with Katey previously, she was my boss. So there was like a hierarchy. And now here we don't have a hierarchy, obviously. So it was like a different working relationship. But, you know, it's been mostly like, I think we've both kind of approached it of like, this is really fun. You know, if something comes out of it that's really cool, great. But if not, this is just a really fun side project for us to do on top of our other jobs because we love to give each other more employment. Apparently.
Yes, that's a very common theme with us.
Yeah, like let's take a new job. Okay, this is great. This is fun. But yeah,
life is not hectic enough already.
Exactly.
No, we're journalists. We need more jobs. That's totally fine. So yeah, we started it last summer, and it's really just been a lot of fun since then. But yeah, I think the hesitation, maybe a little bit on either side, but just like, oh, okay, now we actually got to like take the steps to do it and formalize it, like Katey was saying.
Yeah, and like stay consistent too. It's like now we have like a regular schedule that we have to stay on and like be, you know, kind of organized about. So
how do you all choose like the books that you all want to read and discuss?
Pure vibes.
Yeah. That's kind of the simple way to put it. We kind of like meet up and talk about like, oh, what's coming out? Like what authors do we really like already that we definitely want to discuss? Like obviously we have to do the new Emily Henry because we love Emily Henry. Yeah. Sometimes we'll just like take a shot in the dark and be like, oh, this author is pretty popular. Let's see what happens with this, which is how we ended up with Angelica Frankenstein.
A journey.
A very strange book. So it's kind of just like
I was not a fan. Okay.
It was different than any book I've ever read.
Yeah.
Is what I'll say about it.
That's
Aaron, you have to read it just so we can talk about it, Aaron.
All right. I'll check it out.
Read it this October.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
And I think we're getting another one, which I'm like,
wait, in that like.
Yeah, I feel like I heard her on another podcast and I feel like she's not done with that world, which I was like, girl, we shouldn't even, I don't think we should have done this one. Maybe I'm just a bad romance reader.
No, not at all. That was a strange one. And I'm shocked right now that we are going to go back to wherever that took place.
Not done. I feel like somebody else from that story is getting a book, which
Ooh,
we'll see.
We'll see. I'll look that up later. That'll be a fun surprise.
Oh, I feel like we have to read it too, is the thing. Yeah. I feel obligated.
I mean, now, Aaron, you got to get caught up, and then we'll just all have to read it together.
Yeah.
What all this anti-hype is about here.
Yeah. If we do this, you guys can come and talk about it with us.
Yeah, we're gonna come talk
sequel.
About it. And here we are. We're giving the book publicity, and we didn't even like it. So
exactly.
You know, it's
no shade, Sally Thorne, but that book was just, it was a time. So how do y'all feel? Do you feel like now that you've started the podcast, has it changed your perception of reading romance at all?
Not really. I think really for me, the main thing that it's changed is like, you know, I read it a little differently because sometimes I'm reading it through the lens of like, if we're reading a book for the podcast, obviously I like take notes and highlight and stuff in a different way than if I were just doing it for fun. But it hasn't really changed my perception of it, other than I feel like I know Abigail's tastes even better. And so I'm going to be like, if I'm a faster reader than her. So if I'm ahead of her on a book that we're reading for the podcast, I'm like, she's going to hate this or something, you know, like I just know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I don't think my thoughts about romance has changed. Like, I still love it. I still think it's like worthy of discussion, which was a big reason we like wanted to do this. But yeah, it does make me a closer reader, especially when we're reading for the pod. Just like Katey said, you know, like I take notes. I maybe try to slow down a little bit and like pay a little bit more attention. But otherwise, you know, I think it's just made me appreciate it a bit more too, of like everybody else who really likes romance. It's so fun. You know, I think I've learned a little bit more of what I like from a romance for sure, like Katey was kind of saying. So yeah, if anything, it's just made me appreciate it even more. And it's been really fun to just like talk about it even more than we already were. So
with your friend. Okay, so what have you realized you like? And for Katey, when you're reading and you're ahead of her and oh, she's not going to like this. Like, what is it? Like, what have you all both learned about yourself from reading romance for the podcast?
Oh yeah, Katey, answer first.
Yeah, I have a lower bar than Abigail has for sure. I'm just like, this is fun. Like I feel like I can find something. Like even Angelica Frankenstein, when we were like discussing that book, I was like, I'm gonna find some stuff that I can pull out of this that was fun, because I don't want to just like, hate on a book the entire time, because I'm like, Abigail and I are journalists, we're writers, we haven't written books, but we know what it takes to like pull together a creative project. And so I have learned that I have slightly lower standards for better or for worse. We've learned that I think we like a lot of the same tropes. I feel like
okay.
we like an only one bed. Who doesn't? We like
Aaron, you love a one bed.
Love an only one bed. Yeah.
It's so good. Something we can all agree on. I read like spicier books than Abigail does. So sometimes if something is getting kind of spicy and it's not super well written, I'm like, oh, can't wait for Abigail to get to this.
That's true. I think these are all correct. Of like Katey, because she is a faster reader than I am, she reads more than anybody I know. So yeah, her bar is lower because she just needs more books to read, it seems. Meanwhile, I think, I'm trying to think of like the things I think I get like turned off more easily by like dialogue and characters. And then Katey is just more conditioned to like power through a book, and I am just like, no, I don't want to do it anymore, I'm not feeling it. So
so you're a DNFer.
Okay.
I am a DNFer. I wish I was a little less of a DNFer, but I feel like I give it a respectable amount of time, like 30 to 50%. If I'm not feeling it, I'll quit. But it does make my like Goodreads goal look very unimpressive maybe at the end of the year, where I'm like, oh, I finished 40 books. I probably read like 50 or 60, just like maybe didn't finish all of them. So yeah.
Us non-DNFers can look up to you though. We wish we could DNF a little more than we do.
Aaron, you don't DNF?
I find it very hard to. I think my longest stretch was I came back to a book 7 years after starting it and finished it.
So you'll give it another chance. Yeah.
Yes.
I finished. I DNF'd a book with like 30 pages left.
Right.
I was like, girl, you were almost done. But I was like, I can't take it anymore. And I look back on it now and I'm like, you couldn't take 30 more pages of it.
That is really impressive. I don't know if I could do that. I think if I'd gotten that far, I would have powered through to the end. That's really impressive.
But that was back in my day where I was like a hardcore DNFer. I feel like my old age, I'm kind of like, well, let me just see if it gets better, and then you get to the end and you're like, oh my God, I just wasted 72 hours on this book. It's like, you should just DNF the thing. Well, as we were chatting about like before we got started, we did read a Harlequin Presents together. Home of the alpha hero, usually a millionaire, a billionaire. And we've been seeing a lot of billionaire and romance discussion. What are y'all's thoughts on the billionaire romance?
I was very caught up. This was also my first like Harlequin romance sort of thing. Also, I don't know if I've read very many like secret billionaire romances in general, which I know is a pretty prominent trope like across romance as a whole, whether it's like contemporary or not. I found myself getting very caught up in the logistics of how somebody becomes a multi-billionaire. Is this a viable business opportunity that this man built billions of dollars in less than a decade? I don't understand.
I messaged Aaron. I was like messaging Aaron yesterday, and I was like telling him my kind of thoughts and gripes and about the book, and he said the same thing. He's like, yeah, wait till you get to the part where you find out how he became a millionaire. So what I did, I was like, I follow a lot of like HGTV people.
Yes.
And I don't know if they're like multi-billionaires.
Right. Like I personally know people who flip houses and they make about the same amount of money as I do. Just normal people. They are normal people.
It's the fantasy. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
What do you think, Aaron? Like, what are your billionaire and romance thoughts?
I feel like it's more of a tool. So I give it some grace because it's a mechanic for the story so that money's not an object, and so that these characters, or at least one of them, can provide enough capital to just do whatever. Oh, we're gonna globetrot here and here, and it doesn't matter. We're gonna eat at this fancy restaurant. Oh, don't worry, I've got people that can handle this, that, or the other. And I just feel like somewhere in modern history, $1 million or a multimillionaire just became not enough. And so they just had to take it another step to that extra digit. And so it's like I can kind of keep a separation between a billionaire in a romance novel and, what we see from billionaires in the real world.
Well, we were talking earlier this week, and one of my favorite podcasts is called Sentimental Garbage. And every week they talk about something different. And this past week, they were actually talking about rich people and like our fascination with rich people. And they were talking specifically about two shows, Succession and White Lotus. I don't watch either one of them, but I guess they're about rich people. And it was like, what is our fascination with rich people? And I was like, this is perfect, because we're literally talking about a Harlequin Presents this weekend, and it's a multi-billionaire or whatever. And I was thinking, I'm like, if I would have been reading this a couple of years ago, I probably would have just been like blown away by the fantasy of it all. But as someone who is in this season of life where like, okay, I have finished grad school, I finished a teaching program, now I'm looking for employment. I'm like, I don't know how much of the billionaire romance is like for me in this moment as somebody that's like looking for a job, going on interviews, checking emails every 5 minutes. It's like, I don't know. But what are y'all think? Like, what is our fascination with rich people today?
We are both watching Succession from the beginning currently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Juice.
Yes.
Oh,
Abigail loves a silly rich person.
I do. And not so much like a secret billionaire, multi-billionaire, silly rich person romance, but like in contemporary romance, I love the ones that are like set in LA and like they go to Rodeo Drive and they go out to fancy dinners all the time. Maybe I can put it more in the camp of like celebrity romance, but I do love a silly rich person thing. Like, growing up reading like The Clique, which is all about like silly rich people. Terrible books. I would not recommend any middle schooler read them anymore, but like I love them. I just like sped through every single one, and I don't know, that's something I can't let go of. I just love like glitz and glamour, and like I am not necessarily like a glamorous person either, so maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Succession, maybe this is true for all of it, but I know Succession specifically, what I love about it, and this also applies to White Lotus too, is like rich people gossip is just like elite. It is so different than normal people gossip. Like the stakes are so much higher. That's maybe what it is. Katey and I also just generally love gossip. We're nosy people.
We're
so maybe
journalists.
we're journalists. We're paid to be nosy. I think that might be part of it. It's just like, this is gossip that is so removed from like anybody's reality, who like we're normal people. We're not loaded by any means, but I think
like,
it's
how
just
dare she bring another sweet potato pie to the bake sale?
Yeah.
Rich people are like, their gossip is on a totally different level.
Yeah, these are like not problems in real life. And so I think maybe that's part of it. It's just like, oh my gosh, this is gossip I will never ever come across in real life. Like in an episode of Succession that I haven't made it to yet, but has been memed, is like a piece of gossip is the cousin Greg, Katey, brings somebody to a party, and she brings this like giant Burberry bag, which is a huge faux pas. They talked
about this on the podcast.
Yes. And like,
and everybody was in support of him calling her out on the bag.
Yes. And like that being gossip for somebody is just like so funny to me, of like, this woman brought the wrong luxury bag, and it is too large for this kind of place because everybody else is so much richer than Burberry, which okay. So just I think that genre of gossip is so funny to me. And again, I do love a silly rich people romance. I love a long dinner where people are just revealing information. So
yeah, okay. I agree. I also think neither Abigail nor I grew up particularly well off, and so I think it's the fantasy of it. But I think I like, Erin, when you were talking about like, oh, it like helps the story that someone is a billionaire. That's how I feel about like The Bachelor, right? Like it's all like suspended reality of like, of course we can take this helicopter ride, for our date, which happens in the book. And so, like, I think it's just like, it just makes life so much easier. And so you're able to put yourself in that world of like, what if my life was so easy? I could just helicopter ride to my date, and it's like a nice little fantasy where I don't have to be like, well, in real life, I have to go do my dishes and water the plants. And it's kind of cold outside and I don't like it. But I can be like, no, instead I'm on this helicopter.
In the fantastical world, I would not be looking for a job, to teach, which is, one of the most underpaid jobs. I would love to be on a helicopter. So should we just look at it for the like fantasy fairy tale story driver that it is? Should we just chill out on it, do you think?
That is a great question.
Because if I think too hard about like why, I don't like to think about why perhaps, maybe mostly women like reading books about mostly men who are very wealthy and can provide for them. I don't want to look at that too closely because that stresses me out. So the fantasy piece of it is like maybe the land that I like to live in.
Yeah.
So what was y'all's, before this book, tell us your relationship with category romance. Were we newbies? Had we ever read maybe one? Did our moms read it?
Yeah. What was the perception of Harlequin romance?
Non-existent.
Yeah, we were total newbies. I've never read one before. Katey, I don't think you had read one before either.
Not knowing that that's what it was. Like it, perhaps I have picked one up, but not with the knowledge that this is a thing, basically.
Yeah. My mom growing up was very into like Jodi Picoult and maybe like that kind of like women's fiction that like sometimes has romance in it, but like we didn't. I would just like see them in the Barnes and Noble in those like giant bookshelves of like there were so many of the shirtless men covers, and that was kind of my introduction to it, which I had never picked one up until now. So total newbie.
Yeah, completely new. My mom read like Dean Koontz paperbacks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My mom did those too. She and Nanny.
But yeah, same thing with the like shirtless man cover. Like it was we didn't have a bookstore in my town, so like at Walmart, like walls and walls of shirtless Fabios.
Mm-hmm.
See, before I started reading it, I don't remember seeing them at all, but I don't think I was looking for them, and I haven't been reading romance that long. So yeah, when I discovered them, I was like, oh, they are literally everywhere. What was I looking for before then? So, well, we read Bound by a Sicilian Secret by Lela May Wight. Tell us y'all's overall thoughts on the pick.
Yeah, because this is a presents. We threw you two into the deep end when it comes to Harlequin.
What a journey this was.
It was a journey. Okay, go ahead.
Truly a journey. I did not know what to expect from it. Also, my fiance is Italian. His family is like from Milan. So I was just like, ooh, this feels a little
close
topical. He is
does he have a helicopter? Secret helicopter?
No one has informed me of a secret helicopter or a 300-foot yacht that I hope I will get to see at some point.
It's coming later. Okay,
Yes.
It's coming later.
There better be a yacht.
Yeah. What is
we
this
need to
all
be tagged
for?
in the pictures. We need to be tagged in the photos.
What is this all for if I can't get a yacht? What is this all for?
What are any of us going through this for, Abigail?
Yeah. Katey is my matron of honor, so she's also taking on some wedding stress, but it's all worth it if we get a yacht.
That's true. I better get a yacht at the end of this. Tell Austin. That's what I want.
You're going to be book 2. Okay, you're the heroine of book 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a wedding series.
This was a journey, and it was a ride. It was fun. It was very different than anything we've read for our podcast, things I generally read. I didn't really know what to expect. It was a quick read for sure. So I don't know. It was different. It was a journey. There were lots of settings.
Abigail and I are not great about reading like blurbs and stuff before we pick up a book. We generally just like go in blind. So I had not read anything about this book beyond y'all just being like, this is the one we're going to read. And I was like, word, let's do it. Cool. So I was completely surprised. it's the things go 0 to 100 in these books really fast, huh?
Really fast.
Yeah. So that was unexpected. Also the writing style to me made it seem like it was like I was like, what time period is this taking place in? Like what decade or century is this taking place in? Because like some of the dialogue was almost very like Regency, like proper. But then I was like, wait, they're like, someone's talking about like, so did someone talk about texting or something? There was some kind of modern reference that I was like, hang on, I don't know where we are in time.
She gets a laptop at some point. He gets her a
Oh
laptop.
yeah, we get a
that was it.
laptop case reference. Yeah, I was like, what about the laptop? Is there a laptop in there? I don't know. Erin,
Just in case.
You picked this for us. So tell us why. We know you really loved the first book. Tell us your motives behind this one.
Yeah, so basically it's I loved the first book. This is the second book that Lela has written. Her first one was the debut, that was His Desert Bride by Demand, and she does such a good job just capturing the Presents vibe that one, it's a book that came out this month in the United States, so I was excited to get to it. And yeah, I thought it would be an interesting thing to break some people in on Harlequin, to give them a very Presents book.
Okay, so I have a question. What is the difference between Harlequin and then Harlequin Presents?
So Harlequin is like the overall like umbrella publishing company, and then within that there are lines that they do for the category romances. They also have like HQN and other things, which are, your more traditional single title stuff. But when you talk about a Harlequin book, it's when you go into the used bookstore and you see just the shelves and shelves and shelves of those about 50,000 page books that have just those very recognizable covers. And usually a lot of people go into that section and are like, I don't even know where to start here. And, they turn around dizzy. So there's different lines. There's like romantic suspense. There's special edition, which is like small town. So it's like they have these themes within these lines that all the books in those lines follow. And Presents is just like drama in a regular romance where something would be like a 2 to like a 6. Harlequin Presents is like, no, let's just take it to 11.
Okay, that explains a lot.
Yeah, because I texted Abigail earlier and I was like, they've gotten into like 3 fights in the last like 10 minutes of me reading this book.
Yeah.
The drama of it all.
Drama.
Presents tend to be about like 211-ish pages. So you get a lot in like chapter 1 and chapter 2. Mm-hmm. And then the pacing may slow down a little bit, but like you get a lot of front loading. And I think that like Erin said, like all the lines are so different. It's just a marketing thing. It's like what you're in the mood for. If you're in for sweet small town, you're gonna go to heartwarming, or faith-based, you'll go to love inspired. Presents is like the fantasy. It's the fantasy, it's the fairy tale, and it's the drama. And it's the wealth. Mm-hmm. That is Presents. Yeah. So I think this is like the perfect line to have like thrown you all into and see what you think.
This makes so much sense now.
Trial by fire.
So much.
Yes.
Yeah.
We typically don't do this, so bear with us. Jump in, feel free, give commentary.
Yes.
This is one of our few play-by-plays of a book. And we're just so excited. Okay. So chapter 1, in the beginning of the book, guys, we meet our heroine of the novel, Flora Bick, if that is even her name. Okay. When we meet Flora, when we meet her, we learn that due to a broken ankle, she has learned that her parents are not her biological parents and that her birth mother died because of an addiction. We learn that she has been raised as like a daughter of dairy farmers. Her father is unknown. She's really struggling with this information. Okay. That's I feel like, big deal, especially in the first like half of this book, is her struggling with, oh my gosh, they've been lying to me. Which, understandable. I was just like, a broken ankle can do that?
I know. It wasn't like she was like in a coma or something, like a broken ankle.
Yep. Just one limb.
And then we meet our hero. So we meet both of them, chapter 1. I'm calling him Raffaele. Is that how we say it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
That's how I read it.
That's how I read it.
He is grieving the loss of his mother, who lost her battle with depression and leapt to her death. His mother spent 30 years waiting on the soon that never came. She was the nanny to his father's children when she became pregnant. So it sounds like she was like raised in an orphanage, got a job as like the family nanny, slept with the husband, got pregnant. We have Raffaele. They're discarded into the countryside of Sicily with a wad of cash and the promise of soon that never came. And the first meeting between these two happens when Raffaele sees Flora walk over to the balcony, arms outstretched, gazing up at the night sky, leaning over the edge. And I was like, is this a suicidal moment? Like, I'm
Honestly.
confused.
Yeah.
It was, and she's wearing that big ball gown too that she had bought too. And I was just, it was a little bit of a shock,
Yes.
quite honestly.
That's why I was like, what time period are we in? That was like why I was like, where are we? What are we doing?
So thoughts on chapter 1, thoughts on Meet Cute. What did y'all think? First chapter.
It was all very stressful.
They're both in like you said, this very they're in the throes of like emotional turmoil in general. And then when they meet and they just kind of just like stare at each other for a second, just like literally like that. That's how I read it. And then just like very quickly they're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it would not a lot of actual like, who are you sort of going on. I think at one point he asked her like, are you real? Or maybe she asked him.
Yeah.
Something like that. I agree with you, Katie. At one point I was like, I think it's modern times, but like she is in a big dress. This hotel seems like fancy, but like past times fancy. So
I mean, it's
I don't know.
fancy to the point where like she doesn't even know that he can see her, she can't see him. He's
Right.
like behind a secret glass or something.
Yeah, there's big curtains everywhere. You know, I was along for the ride. I did wonder if she was about to leap off the balcony though.
That's what
I know. I thought maybe he was gonna like rescue her, like keep her from doing it or something, and that's how this was all gonna.
It felt like a Titanic
down.
moment, right? Like
Yeah.
he saves her from jumping off the ship.
Yeah.
What did you think, Aaron?
Very presents like this opening here. The just the drama on both sides. And I think that was purposeful. The worrying about if this is is she going to leap off the building moment, because that drives right at Raffaele's his trauma. So I really liked the intro with the visual of the big ball gown blowing in the wind, and him just going up to her and just taking her hand, and
it felt kind of dark fairy tale-ish, right? Almost.
Yeah, I've been reading the ACOTAR books for the first time, which is a journey that I'm currently going on, and there were definitely some like parallels that I felt in just like the way the drama of it all.
I feel like we should preface this whole episode with the drama of it all, okay?
Yes.
Right.
It's all about the drama.
Well, then we learn in chapter 2 that Flora is not only a virgin, but she has never been kissed. Chapter 1 kind of ends off with them like, okay, let's go sleep together. And so chapter 2 is basically them two having sex. After they have sex, Raffaele goes to the bathroom and is leaning against the door, and upon looking down at himself, realizes the condom was torn. So his brain begins screaming that history is repeating itself, an innocent, a seduction, a baby. He walks back to the bedroom and Flora is gone. He immediately begins thinking of the child and how it will never be unwanted and will be aware of who it was and where it's from. And he is determined now to find her. So I don't know. Chapter 2 felt really kind of quick sexual encounter. Oh God, the condom is broke. Boom, she's gone within a matter of minutes.
So sometimes when these women just like disappear in books like this after they've slept with somebody, I'm like, why don't you want to stick around? Like, don't you want to like know what's going on? This is my nosiness coming up though. Like,
Right.
Don't you want to know this guy's story more? You don't even know his name.
His name at least?
Yeah. Because she doesn't know his name at this point, which I was also like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I also was like, oh, she's a virgin. She's never kissed anybody. She's really diving head first. That's good for Flora. All right. But
yeah, I was a little worried for her. I was like, have we thought this through? Is this really the way that we want this to go down? is this a healthy choice that we're making here, Flora?
She said, I'm going for it. I'm going to be this woman. So, she's committed. I appreciate that. Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, then she runs off.
Yeah.
And I guess having got to know a little bit about her, this was a very like introspective written book. So I think like having gotten to know like the conflict she's dealing with, it's like she was finally in control of a choice. And her choice was, I'm going to go sleep with this man right now. And I was like, okay, girl, I'm not mad at it. Okay. If that's what you feel you need to do. The all of a sudden being gone, I'll be honest, I was not expecting. So I was like, okay, all right. I kind of see where this is going. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this chapter is like, so for anyone that doesn't know, Presents is probably my favorite Harlequin line. And it's for reasons like this. Like, I'm not particular, like, I wouldn't say I'm a fan of the virgin heroine, but it's just such a like very common piece in a Presents novel. But the crisis that both of the individuals are in, Flora's like having this identity crisis of, oh, who am I? I was always this reserved person, and just throwing caution to the wind. Oh, this man is here and it's just perfect, and I'm just going to follow this feeling that I have and just do something that I wouldn't do because I don't know who I am. Like maybe this is the person I am. Maybe I'm random like this. And then of course, like the disappearing afterwards, again, dialing the drama to 11. It's like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Like, okay, I had that fantasy, but now it's gone. Now I have to run back to the security.
I got to run back to my life.
Yeah.
And he even like, says at one point, he's like, I don't even sleep with virgins. And I'm like, oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah, right. Well, can't unring that bell, sir.
Yeah. And I love that, like, in a lot of Presents novels, there's these like Cinderella tones. So he goes on this mission to like, oh, I have to find this runaway woman that,
I have to find the shoe that fits.
Exactly.
The foot that fits the shoe. Yeah.
The baby.
Which only a billionaire would have the resources to knock on all the doors in the kingdom.
Yes. Okay, so next chapter, he has tracked Flora down despite the fact that she used her birth name, Flora Campbell, to check into the hotel. We're given an idea of how Raffaele has earned his riches. He scrimped and saved and purchased his first renovation project, pulled it apart and put it back together brick by brick, and posted it online, having tourists post pretty pictures of his renovations, and then sold it. So Raffaele is like in the renovations business, which I'm always excited to see how our Presents heroes have made their money. And as someone that loves renovation shows, I wasn't mad at this. I was a little bit like, how did you really get rich off this? But if it isn't a place like Sicily or whatever, I can kind of see it.
Yeah, if it's like aimed at tourists and stuff, like that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
And
I kind of love that he used social media as a driver for that.
Modern businessman.
We get that Flora has fallen back into her farmhand routine, but has an intense bone deep fatigue running through her body. Okay.
Wonder why.
Yeah. Through her introspection, we get that she'd become overwhelmed by going off script and allowing the intensity of her feelings to take root. So she ran back to her life, to what she knew. The chapter ends with him asking her if she's pregnant, something she has apparently not considered, and she faints. What do we think about the end of chapter 3? I was like, she's okay. I am not, like Aaron said, I'm not always a fan of the virgin heroine. I don't want to just like say all women are out here and we lose our virginities before we meet the love of our life. But being realistic, sometimes I'm like, girl, you've never like went out with your girlfriends and met somebody at a bar. I don't know. And so she felt a little naive, but then I thought a lot about her parents, and I guess I thought a lot about why we shelter our kids and what we shelter our kids from. So then I kind of eased off of her a little bit because her parents obviously knew about her birth mother, and that's why maybe they were so like over sheltering of her. Mm-hmm. But I was just like, girl, you had sex with a guy and you never thought, well, she didn't know the condom broke, but like, as a woman, I think you can kind of tell like something is different. Something is different. Yeah. I'm a lot more tired than I was once upon a time. It was just interesting that the surprise pregnancy really came from him coming to her about it, if that makes sense.
Yes. As someone who always thinks that she's like sick or has some sort of condition, I cannot relate to Flora, because anytime something is just a little different in my body, I'm like, I probably have cancer or something. I don't know. But also, like, again, I say I am just concerned about Flora. I'm like, I want to like big sister her a little bit. I'm like, honey, did no one tell you that this was the thing that might would happen? Like it is perhaps a consequence of our decisions. And did we really make the best decision here? So I'm just like, it's kind of the same as you, Brie. Like I feel a little like maybe she's naive, but I'm more like, bless your heart. Like we like come on, girl, how'd we get here?
Again, I'm all about the drama. So like I'm so forgiving about Presents books because I'm not advocating for like abstinence only education or anything like that, but we all know condoms aren't foolproof and it just takes one time. But like the fateness, I guess, of the the one time, and this just the what are the chances, and the tracking her down and her being just that naive about the situation, like pregnant, what are you kidding? No.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, pee on this stick, we'll see.
Yeah, that was a whole thing. We'll get there.
Well, when I was messaging Aaron and I'm like, the condom conveniently broke at the right time of the month for her to get pregnant too. Like it's a
all
science.
Of the things. And that he is just immediately convinced, like, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
I gotta go. Like, not even like, hey, I gotta tell you, like, maybe we should take a test, just let you know. He's very much like, no, she's pregnant.
Right.
I guess it's kind of the opposite of the secret babies that we probably have all read at some point, where she found out she was pregnant by a billionaire and she's like, well, screw it, I'm just going to raise this kid on my own. And then 12 years later, it's like, oh yeah, you have a kid. Like, no, the hero
that's
in
a
this
good
one,
point.
the hero in this one's like, the condom broke. Yeah, she might be pregnant. I might need to go
search the entire country for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also wanted to know the logistics of landing a helicopter on a dairy farm without waking everybody up.
Right.
She came out and she's like, I didn't want to wake up my parents. And I was like, well, did they not like notice
did they not hear the helicopter?
Literal landing by your cows? I don't know. But also it doesn't really matter. But I was very curious of where do you land a helicopter in a cow field? I don't know. So
Chapter 4, the next chapter, the pregnancy between the unwanted bastard and the miracle. Okay, this is the rest of the story.
What a turn of phrase.
It's perfect.
Raffaele wants Flora to take a pregnancy test. She agrees to go to his home to take it on one condition. He doesn't reveal his real name unless the pregnancy test is positive, because if she is not pregnant, nothing up to that point will have mattered. I kind of was not mad at that. I was like, this feels very progressive for Flora up to this point. Like, I don't need to know your name if this comes back not positive. So what did y'all think about that little tidbit?
The logic ain't logicking for me.
Oh, the logic was logicking for me. I got it.
Yeah?
Like, yeah, it kind of made sense to me. For somebody who has not really had any like romantic relationships in her life, from what I understand. If it was not meant to be, then she can just like kind of go on back and live on our dairy farm.
Yeah.
And kind of forget about it. I don't know. I mean, like, it's not great logic, but it did make sense.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe it's just so different from what I would do that I'm like, again, are we making the right decisions?
Again, I want information at all points. And so, yeah, the logic is, I understand it. Would I do it? No. But yeah, Flora, I understand. Flora, I get it.
Yeah, definitely. The going back to, she had this crazy night, maybe has some feelings about that, but she's returned to her stability because it's not like her parents don't love her. And so she's very much like, well, I'm here, I'm back here. I don't need to be drugged back into this whirlwind of whatever this is between us, Yeah. So
yeah, I hear you. I'm with you.
I feel like that kind of condition plays into like the fantasy of it all. Cause it's like, well, if it's not, then I'll always have that one night and whatever with a stranger.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I can
Just
see.
let it be what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just let it be what it was.
And so that chapter ends with her realizing she's not leaving as Flora Campbell or Flora Bick, but as a potential mother and someone's soon to be wife. So Flora at this point is still stuck. I don't know. I feel like for like the first couple of chapters, it's like this interesting look at identity. And I feel like for her, that kind of fades away the more, like the further we get into the book. I don't know. I feel like she was constantly stewing on that, which rightfully so. You've just learned like your whole life was basically a lie. But then it kind of fades away. Did y'all feel like that? Or was that just, did I miss something?
I felt like that too. I feel like his stuff came up more later on, whereas hers was more at the beginning. So maybe that was just like a deliberate shifting. I don't know. But I definitely felt the same way. It seemed like she kind of moved on from that relatively quickly.
Yeah, she makes a big choice at the end that, makes her definitely more a self-assured version of herself than she is in the beginning of the book. So
I was so proud of her in that moment. I was like, God, I was like, damn it, yes.
She did a good thing.
Ouch.
She did a good thing.
Okay, so chapter 5, they get closer to Raffaelle's home. Flora realizes she does want to know his name and who he is all of a sudden. I want to rip off the blindfold that's been obscuring the view my whole life and go into this with my eyes wide open. We learn that he's a multi-billionaire. He's Raffaele Russo, CEO of Russo Renovations. Pretty pictures make money. We learn that pretty photos and social media helped him get where he is. And the chapter ends with him thinking he wouldn't fail his own again, thinking of losing his mother and Flora's potential pregnancy. That's what I got. That was my takeaway from chapter 5. Like Raffaele, we figure like this is important for him to find out, important for him to know because of his own like childhood traumas, which I think this is where the book kind of shifts. And I feel like so much of the focus is really on him. What did y'all think? Any other takeaways from chapter 5?
It's just still blind. It's still mind blowing to me that we're in a helicopter to go take a pregnancy test. Like, could you just go to CVS? Like, there's a gas station right there on my corner. Like, you don't have to go that far.
Yeah.
It's not
Taking the pregnancy on the yacht too. Taking the test on a 300-foot yacht. Like, this was like taking a pregnancy test really in style.
Yeah,
so.
it really could have taken like 15 minutes.
What
but
girl
then we wouldn't have gotten all this other
take
stuff.
it? What girl wouldn't want to take it on a yacht? Okay.
True.
Also, I have to say, like, the pregnancy test they get also tells her how far along she is. Do those exist?
That's what I was wondering.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I didn't think so either. I have not taken like a super high-tech pregnancy test anytime recently, but told her she was pregnant or not pregnant, how far along she was. And I was just like, have we like grown that much as a society that an at-home pregnancy test can do that?
You are a multi-billionaire.
That's true.
Anything is possible. Okay.
That's true.
Yes, you're right. These are only available to multi-billionaires.
Yes.
Okay.
He got one from his CEO friend of the pharmaceutical company.
Yes.
New technology.
Yeah, he's got a hookup. You're absolutely right.
Within that 6-week period, he made it happen. Okay.
Yeah.
I need a pregnancy test. I need to know how far along she is.
But I mean,
Genuinely,
when he
genuinely when he was like, when she was like, oh, you have a pregnancy test, and he was like, it's at my house or whatever, I seriously thought he would have like a team of doctors waiting for her. Like, that's what I was expecting.
Yeah.
I thought the doctors were going to be the pregnancy test, and he was going to be like, here you go.
Well, my only takeaway from chapter 6 was Flora calls her mother to tell her she's pregnant, and mom is happy about it.
This was wild.
Yeah.
Again, I'm very stressed. I'm stressed for everyone involved.
I love that that she just stepped onto a helicopter on her dairy farm, letting no one know that she was leaving, and then days later calls her mother and is like, hey, I'm pregnant, getting married. Like,
have you noticed I haven't been around? I got on a helicopter.
And I get that her mother's just like, okay, great. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
I love that there was no like family drama. Okay.
Yes.
Really, there was no
Yeah.
family drama by the characters that were alive. Okay.
I do love that she had familial support, and there was some concern there. For page count, we just skipped over the whole "where have you been" for several days. Like you just disappeared out of the. You went out into the fields and then never came back.
Yeah, we don't have time for that. We got to focus on the real drama.
I don't know, officer. The last time we saw her, she climbed a ladder into a helicopter and was flown away.
She could be anywhere. Who knows?
It was a fancy helicopter, so we weren't worried.
She's probably well cared for.
So in chapter 7, she's called her mom already. Raffaele shows no interest in asking how the conversation went. The only family I care for about is sitting at this table, which stings for her. This is when I became a little confused, but whatever. It was just like the past couple of chapters, she seems really not angry, but kind of frustrated. Who am I kind of thing. But I think that's when maybe she realizes like, this is my family. They are being supportive. So when he says that and it stings, I'm like, girl, you were just like super kind of pissed at these people for not telling you that they aren't your real parents or whatever. But I think that's when it kind of maybe shifts for her, because it's like they are supportive. They are her family. He informs Flora that they will be in Sicily in 2 weeks after she tells him about her mother's upcoming birthday, which is where he intends they raise their child. And he also tells her we'll be married by next week. And she's hesitant because of her life leading up to all this. She feels she didn't have choices. She just always acted. And this chapter ends with Flora feeling that all Raffaele wants is the baby, which I mean,
kind of seems that way.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Raffaele switches to like full alcohol mode here, which is very presents. Like I didn't know quite what to feel about him in the first few chapters, with chasing after her when he suspected she was pregnant, because like, I'm not going to be my dad. I'm not going to just abandon the mother and my child. And it seemed like he was, really all about making this work. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I'm going to make all these decisions for us. Yeah, we're getting married. But it's not about you. I don't care if your parents are there. Like, this is what we're doing. And just not giving her any say in anything, which I don't care for personally, but for the sake of a presents, like I'm here for it, because that's just the drama that I'm looking for. The
drama of it all.
Yeah.
It felt like it felt like his obligation was the baby and she was just the carrier of the child.
Yeah.
Which it's like, okay, thank you for planning and hoping and being excited to do the right thing by your child, but like, I'm here too. Don't know.
Yeah.
Well, in chapter 8, his worst fear comes to life. They may be currently living on his yacht, but neither he, the staff, or crew can find Flora, which is, kind of going back to his mother and all of that. And they're experiencing a storm. So they're on a yacht. There's a storm. They can't find her. And they finally find her located in the Sky Lounge, asleep. Flora tries to get Raffaele to admit that he was concerned for her while she was missing, but he won't. And then she asks him, how can we get married? He says, you're pregnant. And she responds, yes, I'm pregnant, but how can I marry you when you don't trust me? So that's chapter 8. That's a very real conversation to have. It's like, you're pregnant, we're getting married. And she's like, you thought I left. I was up here asleep in the Sky Lounge. Like, how can we get married if you can't even trust me to be asleep, kind of thing. So I feel like this is when things start to get real.
Well, they decide they're going to have sex again, which I didn't know they had decided they weren't. So that was a development.
Yeah.
We hit some emotional beats.
Again, I was like, are we all making good decisions here? I'm not. It's very stressful. Also, really just impressed that the yacht is so big that someone can get lost on it.
That somebody can get lost.
Yes. Yeah.
I think he even yells at the captain. He's like, how do you lose her? It's only 300 feet. I'm like, a 300-foot long yacht is a lot, buddy. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And then he has her like looking at security footage and whatnot. That what I was impressed with on how she snuck out of there somehow. But
if I was, I'd be
it's
like,
a big boat.
I didn't know it was my job to like keep tabs on your girl. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was my job.
Yeah.
I'm captaining the ship.
Yeah.
Well, in
Why is
chapter
she
9,
disappearing from you, buddy? Huh?
right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
keep
sounds
tabs
like
on
a
your
you
girl.
problem.
Well, they have sex for the first time since their initial encounter in chapter 9, and Flora realizes she is in love. She goes from pretty naive to she was a woman who would claim the wants of her body and the needs of her heart from this day forth. Because what was life without risk, without choice? Flora wants to persuade Raffaele to explore the chemistry between them, to understand it before they marry and before the baby comes. What do we think about Flora in love in chapter 9?
Well, I mean, like her, I'm very worried that it's maybe just her addictive personality that she's just diving into and not actual, she's just lust drunk on things. Anyway, that's just me buying into the drama there, which I found I loved. Like this, it's something to take seriously, her situation of her birth and everything, but the constant worry of like, oh, is this just me forming an addiction?
Yeah, because we do get like it. I can't remember what chapter it was, right? But like she does say once she learned about her mother, she found out she was born an addict, right? Or
Yes.
addicted to something. Okay, so so to her, a lot of things are starting to make sense of like her impulsive personality and all of that, right? Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm generally not, and Abigail and I have talked about this on our pod before. I'm generally not like an insta love kind of girl. I'm always skeptical. And so this, I'm just going back to like, Flora, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Big sis Katey.
I know. Yeah.
I
was really big sis in Florida or Flora during all of this. Cause I was like, I feel very protective of whatever's happening here.
Yeah. I feel like I'm with you on that one, especially in chapter 9. I was like, girl, he does not seem like he's on the same page as you. And I feel like I need to protect you from this.
Yeah, he's got some more inner work to do that he hasn't done yet. Flora's on a journey that he's not necessarily on at the moment.
They both need good therapists.
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed.
Well, chapter 10, I just want to call him Raffi, but whatever. Raffaele.
Raffi, like the children's singer.
I want to shorten it. It's like, it's a lot. So he tells Flora the story of his mother ending her life, that it was the illusion of love that killed her. This is why he believes that love is like a myth. And now that they are on their way to his home, he admits to Flora that what happened on the boat wasn't happiness. It was sex, that it was a mistake, and it's time they move past it. They do the right thing for their child. Flora asks that if he loves her, he choose instinct and get rid of the list he's given her. He gives her a list because she sees him and she knows he sees her. Raffaele asks her to marry him again. She says, okay. It was a lot for me to process chapter 10, you guys. I was like, I feel like I'm missing something. So, we had to.
Yeah,
They're
a lot of
by the seat
action.
of their pants.
Yeah, in a very short period of time. A lot going on.
Yeah. Chapter 11. So it's wedding time. Raffaele talks to his dead mother's grave on his wedding day before the wedding. And unbeknownst to him, Flora is behind him and overhears everything. Him admitting that he cannot love her, but that he will turn his mother's house into the home she was never given, the home she was denied. She presses on with the wedding and tells him they should start something that's theirs, nothing to do with the past and everything to do with the future. They walk to the wedding space and are surrounded by the community who'd saved him, the boy who pulled them up in the world. And she just wants him to know or feel that he's always been loved. He just didn't understand. What do we think of chapter 11? What do we think of the dead mother talking? What do we think about Flora overhearing it and still going on with the wedding? Because I'm like, I would have run away brided it at that moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like,
she's
get out of there, girlfriend. I'm not behind this.
Yeah. She, as somebody attempting to plan a wedding right now, just showing up sounds fucking great. Sorry, I don't know if you curse on this podcast. Just showing up sounds great. And having everything done, that sounds amazing. On the other hand, if I heard my fiance talking to his dead mother about how he's never gonna love me, yeah, it's time to go. It's time to
go.
Yeah, get out of there.
Yeah, time to go.
I respect how much she like dug her heels in and stood her ground against him, you know, like
He was like, I'm gonna make
You're
him.
gonna-
I'm already here.
she's gonna fix him. And you know what?
I can
I love her
respect that.
tenacity.
She did say she loves fixing things. She gets kind of addicted to fixing things. So I was like, okay, all right.
Oh,
But in that moment, when you're talking to your dead mom's grave and you're like, I will never love her, mom, but I will turn your house into a home, I would have been like, eh.
yeah.
So the
Oof.
wedding is over. They're on their way to the house. There is sex in the car. Okay. Sex in the car. Just witnessed you talking shit about me to your dead mom that you'll never love me,
Yeah.
but we're having sex in the car.
Why not?
My emotions were heightened at this point. Okay. Flora tries to make Raffaele see that what he feels for her is love, that love is actions, and he's been showing her he loves her this whole time, which I was like, you know what? I feel you. I do feel you on that. Raffaele tells her love will never find you in that house. And Flora tells him to get out of the car. She instructs the driver to take her to the airport. Raffaele lets her go. What do y'all think? Chapter 12.
I'm gonna fight this man.
A lot of big things happening here. Yeah, you'll never find love in that house. Ow. Also, yeah, definitely Flora, time to go. But also, Flora, how are you going to get on a plane in a wedding dress with no identification? She has a suit jacket full of money. That'll get you somewhere, but like, you have
Not
nothing.
far.
Yeah,
I guess it depends how much money she has, because
What did
Maybe-
he say? Like she has enough money in her pocket to fly around the world like 3 times or something.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's how she's clearly gonna fly home with no ID. That's what
Yeah,
money
how big
can
is
do.
that?
she's just gonna pay off TSA.
Yeah. How big was that wad of cash? I want to know. I want a number. And also, why was it in his wedding suit pocket? Just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah, in case she took it and ran away with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to plan for everything.
Yeah.
Okay,
But,
Aaron,
you know.
give us your insights into it, Aaron. What do you think?
All right. Well, they have to give in to their lust and, post-nuptial sex in the car, like 11, dial it to 11. Yeah, let's go crazy with it. And he said some hurtful things here, but we know back in chapter 8 with that storm on the boat that he is not fighting Flora on these feelings. He is fighting himself, because we've known since then how in love he is with her, but he just does not know how to show it because he's so afraid of being his own father that he's just it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy almost. And Flora knows that, but she lets him go in that scene is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Presents is and especially like this book by Lela, she did just a fantastic job. It's like it's a character study of daddy issues, okay? A character study of daddy issues.
In all their forms.
What a great
Uh,
descriptor.
Right.
Yeah.
That's chapter 13. I feel like the only thing that I took away was he goes after her. Anything else,
Yes.
everybody?
They've got
I-
the big notebook moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes after her.
I appreciate the quick resolution after the conflict breakup. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Also-
it was really quick.
One of the things that Abigail and I always talk about when we're talking about our contemporary romance novels is that, there's always this conflict right before the end. This remains true in no matter what type of romance novel you're reading.
Mhm.
But like half the time they're so stupid in like the contemporary romances that I'm like, y'all got in a fight over that. Like you could have just been talking to each other this whole time. But this one makes sense because I'm like, yeah, I'd be pissed too. I also would run away. So it's always really nice to see when the conflict is something that's not dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great point.
We're tired of the dumb conflict. Make it make
Yeah.
sense.
This one makes sense.
That's kind of it. There's chapter 13. He goes after her. And then in the epilogue, she gives birth to their daughter. And he's finally realized he has the unconditional love he's always been longing for. That's it.
A happy ending.
Yes. He should have realized that, when they did that whole run to each other and embrace and everything. But
Yeah.
but I'll give him some space on that. They're both working on themselves, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got there in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think these two are going to have just a very drama-filled life together. These three.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, you two meet at this like these traumatic turning points of your life. He's recently lost his mother. She kind of found and lost her birth mother at the same time. I feel like there's going to be a lot of drama. There's going to be like one of y'all mentioned it earlier. They need a good therapist. Okay.
Yes.
They need some therapy.
They need
Good
individual
individual.
therapists and then someone for both of them together. We just find a professional.
Yep.
Do you all feel like these two 10 years from now would still be together?
Oh God.
Well, I mean, he was gonna marry her and stay with her forever, no matter what, even if he liked her or not. At one point, he's like, "We'll be lovers, we'll be parents, maybe we'll be friends." So,
Yeah, what a bad deal that is.
but he loves her now, and he's a billionaire. So, I'm gonna say yes for logistics, and also they both seem to really like the drama.
Yeah, I would see, you didn't ask if they were going to be happily together. You just asked if they were going to be together. So I think perhaps they're together. Just don't know what that looks like.
I think they're
I
both
hope the
so
kid's okay.
stubborn. Yeah, that they're gonna be together.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hope Flora never forgets like her dairy farmer roots and it's just like, I can do this by myself. Like I had a life before you.
Yeah.
But who knows? You're right. You're right. Any other takeaways from the book? Anybody? Did we cover everything?
I feel like I've learned a whole new side of romance that was very fun to experience as somebody who reads mostly like contemporary. This was really, I mean, yeah, it was ridiculous and dramatic and very silly at points, but it was like, ooh, okay, I feel like I've like unlocked a little segment of romance that I hadn't seen before. For like, all the women before us who read all these Harlequin romances. It was really fun. It was fun.
Yeah,
it was silly.
all of our grandmas and moms. Turns out they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Oh God, we got to get you. We got to get y'all to read a Blaze.
Oh yeah.
Have to read a Desire. Desire is like North American wealth and drama. It's like soap opera-ish. Before it closes, it's going away, sadly.
It's going away, unfortunately.
Okay, so y'all are reading Emily Henry next, which I think everybody in romance that reads contemporary is going to be reading. Like, what else? Is there anything else coming out this summer that y'all are like super excited about, or what?
Oh, we're getting our respective partners involved.
Excellent.
That's so fun.
And we are kind of, I'm having to force my husband a little more than Abigail's having to force her fiance, but we're making them read a book with us and talk about it. Just to be, neither of them. My husband's a reader. Abigail's fiance is not really a reader, but my husband reads like history books or Star Wars. Like that's it. And so we're going to reread. I think we landed on Tessa Bailey's It Happened One Summer just because good, sweet romance vibes, but also spicy. And we're just going to see how they react now that they know that this is what we are consuming while we're like laying in bed next to them and they have no idea.
This is going to be so fun.
Tessa Bailey too is just like so silly and leans into it that like It Happened One Summer with it being like a sea captain and like some other crazy rich people shenanigans. It's just a great one to introduce them into what we spend a lot of time doing. But we just did Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, which was really fun too. We are very pumped for Emily Henry. I am so excited. I get to pick it up on Tuesday and I can't wait.
Oh, you pre-ordered it?
Yeah, I pre-ordered it from Book People. So I get to go pick it up at Book People.
I love it.
Very exciting.
So have y'all had any like standout favorite reads this year? Like anything you want to shout out?
Oh, hang on. Let me pull up my story graph.
I feel like January I did great. February I did great. Well, yeah. March and April have been like the worst. I feel like my reading months.
I had a really big slump in March.
Yeah, me too. Our work, we both had crazy work periods during March. Like I said, I've been reading all of the ACOTAR books. This is my first journey into ACOTAR. And I've been like hyper fixated on it. So that's really the standout of my 2023 so far.
I just finished one of my book of the months, which was not a romance, but it was called Wayward by Amelia Hart, and it took me a long time to read. Not because it wasn't good, it was just one of those that like it's kind of like a slower paced sort of character study almost. But it was really good. It was like magical realism, which was also very different. So, you know, perhaps that doesn't truly answer your question. The most fun I had reading a romance so far this year was when we did Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, which was a hockey romance.
What a journey that was.
Oh, it was so much fun. It was
TikTok
very
girlies.
goofy. Yeah, the TikTok girlies, the Puck Bunnies loved the hockey romance. And it was really fun to read. It was so goofy, but it was really, really fun. So those might be my two standouts. But yeah, I'm in a big slump that I'm coming out of right now. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too.
Well, we appreciate you joining us and reading this book with us, or even though you might be in a slump.
Oh, this was a lot of fun. It was also a very quick read too. Knocked it out in like 2 afternoons. So you know,
yeah,
might have been a good like kickstart.
Yeah, maybe it's kickstarting us out of our slump, and we'll have to have y'all read one of our books and talk about.
Absolutely.
Hit us up.
Absolutely.
Hit us up. Well, okay, plug all the places where everybody can keep up with you online and the podcast. Like, tell us everything.
Yeah, 50% podcasts on all platforms. But you know, Spotify and Apple are the big ones, obviously. We're at 50% pod on Instagram, and you can also find links to our individual Instagrams there if you so choose to, you know, look at pictures of my dogs and plants. I don't know. We also have a bookshop affiliate page. You can search for us on there that we make some dollars from, not many, but any dollars are dollars. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Support podcasters, people.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yes.
Yes.
This is far from our full-time job. So.
Yeah.
I just have to say, like, I love y'all's podcast graphic, like the podcast photo.
Oh, Abigail's sister's friend did that.
Love it.
Yeah, my sister's an artist, and so when we decided we were going to do this, I was like, do you know any like graphic designers? And Parker Story is the artist who did it, and they did a lovely job. We love it.